my first question is, what prompted you to request this audit with the program?
Well, several things. Your readers and viewers may, and I understand there's the state's going through the process of placing one of these sexually violent predators up in your area. We've been dealing this in San Diego County for years. I represent the East County part of San Diego, which a lot of people don't realize is very rural, very mountainous, and actually I have some of the desert area as well. And so for some reason, this seems to be a favorite spot for the California state hospitals and Liberty Healthcare to place these sexually violent predators. And they're usually in rural neighborhoods where there's very little law enforcement and very little services available to the actual SVP that is required to do lots of follow-up types of meetings and appointments. And it's very difficult for them to be able to do that from these areas. So I ran a bill last year and previously trying to reform how these placements are done. And unfortunately, the public safety committees in both the Senate and the Assembly are very frustrating for those of us that are pro-public safety, and they just seem to be anti-public safety. And so those bills, we're just not able to get those, and Democrats aren't able to get good sentencing reform through those committees either. So it's a bipartisan. It doesn't matter who brings a good bill for public safety; it's going to die in those committees. So one of the best tools we have in the legislature is the state auditor, and the state auditor has a great reputation over the course of decades of doing good, honest work. They're able to dive into these different departments. They're able to investigate, research, find the money, follow the policies, and over a course of 18 months or so, produce a very extensive and elaborate report on these different audits. And so that's the route I'm going to take now. Liberty Healthcare has a no bid contract with the state. They've been in business with the state for 20 years. I want to know what their track record is. And is it something that we should be putting out to bid? Is it even something that we should be doing at all? Because the state is actually responsible for these sexually violent predators. And I just come from the spot that it's not fair for everyday Californians to have to do the state's job and keep an eye on these sexually violent predators in their neighborhoods. Former governors, Deukmejian, Schwarzenegger, Wilson, required that when these sexually violent predators were released from prison, they had to stay on state property, either a minimum security fire camp or the parking lot or the utility field or somewhere near a state prison in a trailer that they lived in on their own, but that they were still under the watchful eye of the state rather than the public in a neighborhood.
And when or how did that change to these private properties, these private homes in the rural areas?
That's one of the things we're going to look for in the audit. I can tell you that this current governor has refused to step in and make any kind of statement or make any kind of policy different than what's happening right now. The governor can do this. The governor by an executive order, which this governor is not shy of signing executive orders. So why he hasn't done it on this, I don't know, because it's not, it doesn't get enough headlines for him. But by executive order, he can say that when these sexually violent predators are paroled, they have to stay on state property. He could do that.
Do you believe that these areas are being specifically picked or targeted by these state hospitals for these SVPs?
Well, I don't know. I mean, yes, they are being targeted because currently that's the places that they're looking. Now, if they have a ulterior motive, I wouldn't go that far. I will say in San Diego County, there was one instance where they were looking to put them in Rancho Bernardo, which is a very urban area of San Diego. But there's no proper neighborhood to put these sexually violent predators. What's important for your listeners and readers to know is that this term, sexual violent predator, is a particular legal term that the justice system has put on these predators, because the crimes that they have committed are so heinous that that it requires a whole different type of judicial system and parole system to handle them when they're released. So, what happens is they get convicted, they go to prison, they serve their prison time, and then they go to the state hospital in Coalinga for additional mental treatment, trying to reform them and rehabilitate them from you know from their perdition. I mean, from being a predator. Many of them will admit themselves that they cannot fight the urges, they cannot fight the temptations, they're not capable of being rehabilitated. And so again, it's not fair for everyday Californians to have to put up with this in their neighborhoods, where children are, where elderly are, where anybody is for that matter, because of the crimes that these SVPs have committed are so heinous.
Mm-hmm. Do you know of other areas that are targeted or affected by this program in the state of California?
Oh, I know in San Diego, for sure. I can actually do some research on that and have my staff get back to you. But I mean, it's throughout the state, and it depends on the DA in each county on how they prosecute these SVPs. Some counties are more determined to prosecute these predators as SVPs in other states or other counties. So that plays into it as well.
Gotcha. And what are you hoping comes out of this audit and, moving forward with this program?
Ultimately, I would like to find evidence and reasons to keep these people locked up. I don't believe they should ever be paroled. I don't believe that they should ever be out of prison. I don't believe that they deserve. Many of these predators have had second chances and reoffended in heinous ways. I can't stress that enough, that the crimes that these predators have committed are unimaginable, and you wouldn't describe them in any of your media because of the heinous type of crimes that they are committing on multiple victims, by the way, not just one or two. These are people that go out and look, they're predators. They go out and look for victims and then commit their crimes. They should never be out of prison, is my position.